that we worked so hard with you and others on. And members, just to remind you what we're talking about, for the last 6, maybe even 7 years, there's been the effort to try to help Minnesotans who are undocumented to be able to have the opportunity to take driver's license tests, buy insurance, and protect themselves and all of us, making our roads safer, and allowing us all to have that kind of coverage, and them to not be having their families torn apart by one of them being deported, by being stopped by local law enforcement who says, where's your driver's license? You don't have a driver's license? You're in trouble. We're taking you to the jail. And furthermore, calling immigration. And all of you have heard those stories. These are family-breaking stories, and they are not being addressed in this bill, although there was the best opportunity to do this of all the years that I've been here recently. And as we tried it in 2 different committees, but the first one was in the committee chaired by Representative McNamara, who was the chief author with me. Representative Hamilton was on that committee and supported the bill, but he did not get the support of the other Republican members on the committee. I want to thank Representative Dill for his comments in support of that amendment, and to thank all of you members from the Senate who helped us do that. But I want to go through this issue because this is the only place that I can see where the voice of the people who are camping out here, stuck here all night, not staying in the cold, and ask you with great faith in this system, in this democratic system, to please listen to them. This is the only place that I can see that we can give them voice today. So I want to take some time and do it, and I ask your indulgence, and please ask your respect. You have before you 2 documents. One is from the Minnesota Business Immigration Coalition. Actually, you have 3. That one, it looks like that one is addressed to Chair Kelly, but there was one that was originally addressed to Representative Hamilton. You should all be very proud, members, that our Minnesota Business Immigration Coalition wrote this letter last year and distributed it here to all of us, and they wrote it again this year. Who is the Minnesota Business Immigration Coalition that supported having the opportunity for undocumented Minnesotans to have driver's licenses? They are Terry Hansen of the Minnesota Agri-Grove Council, Bill Glazer of the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce, Nick George of the Midwest Food Processors Association, Kathy McLaughlin of the Minnesota Nursery and Landscape Association, Robert Weaver of Minnesota Milk Producers Association. That man sat in my office and talked to me about his own experiences, his work with being stopped and facing deportation. And he impressed me. He talked about how he has contributed to the legal defense fund for those folks. He doesn't want to lose his workers to deportation because they have a missing tail light or driving around through the community. Dan McElroy, the Minnesota Lodging Association, Minnesota Restaurant Association. Okay, so that letter is not new news. We had it last year, we have it again this year. And it actually was the waivers for, I think, a 3rd document that you should have.
For what purpose does the gentleman rise? Point of order. State your point of order.
You know what, it has to be with factual information. I just don't like the complete mischaracterization.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear a point of order.
Of cops stopping people. I'll take my comments for last. Please recognize, I'll tell you the real story about cops and how they stop people not threatening them.
Okay, so we do not have a point of order before us. Ladies and gentlemen, Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Actually, I just want to honor your standing up because I want to say those are the words that were told to me by the Chair of Milk Producers, not my words. Those are his words. So, you also have before you a copy of a document that is a year old, and it was sent last year and signed by, at that time, Speaker of the House Representative Paul Thiessen and at that time House Minority Leader Kurt Dowd. And we have the fortune of still having those 2 people as our leaders, having switched places, but they are still our leaders. And this letter basically was a commitment from them to this year, in 2016, to try to deal with this issue. And I got to tell you, this letter gave that community real faith in the democratic process that, yes, we couldn't do it last year, we were going to do it this year. And that's why you've seen numerous groups, several different groups here consistently trying to remind us that this commitment was made last year to deal issue that the human suffering and the problems with law enforcement having difficulty with this issue are real. The issue of not being able to have insurance. Now, if you look at the other document that's handed out, you'll see that we have strong support from members of law enforcement. I just want to point to you the groups that have said that they want it, that are part of the Safe Roads Minnesota Coalition, the members and endorsers. Okay, so nonprofits is a whole group. Quickly, I will read through Minnesota Mesa Latina, African Immigrant Services, Conversation with Friends, Centro Campesino, Growing Up Healthy, Immigrant Law Center Minnesota, Police Yeshanta Group, Take Action Minnesota, Tamales y Bicicletas, the Advocates for Human Rights, the Family Partnership, Wade House, Pillsbury United. Under labor, the support is AFL-CIO, CTOO, SEIU, United Food Commercial Workers, Unite Here. Under government, and I provided some letters in the past for the letters to the city governments here, the city of Minneapolis, the city of Red Wing, the chief of the Weller Police Department, Jim Felt, the Bates of Woodbury Police, Michael Freeman, Hennepin County Attorney, John Choi, Ramsey County Attorney, Winona Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. Faith organizations, Cristo Rey, Iglesia Dios Habla Hoy, Interfaith Coalition on Immigration, Isaiah, Jewish Community Center, Minnesota Catholic Conference, St. Paul Lutheran Church, and I want to say Assemblias has been here too, and I want to recognize the contributions that they have made. Business and Media, Minnesota Agricultural Council, as I mentioned before, the Chamber of Commerce, the Midwest Food Processors Association of Producers, Minnesota Lodging, Minnesota Restaurants, Nursery, I've already read those. In addition, the ones on here you can read yourself. Amadado, Beauty Salon, Azteca Mexican Restaurant. I'm not going to go through every one of those, but you can see it's a long list of businesses. Some of whom employ these wonderful Minnesotans who need to have this protection. I'll also point out to you on the same document, there are 12 states and territories currently allowing undocumented artists to apply for driver's license. California, Colorado, Connecticut, Illinois, Maryland, Nevada, New Mexico, Puerto Rico, Utah, Vermont, Washington, Washington, D.C. And the states that have been considering it, including us, Florida, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, New Jersey, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, and Texas. 49 states already allow driver's licenses for DACA recipients, including Minnesota. Now, just a reminder, I think it was surprising to some individuals when we went through this historical fact. Minnesotans who are undocumented used to be able to get driver's licenses here with no problem. It was not a problem until Governor Pawlenty issued an executive order that changed that. And that was after, the terrorism that happened in New York. And somehow they got transferred here to fear our neighbors from the South, who'd never been involved in any of that. But that's where that came from. So remember, this is not a new and radical idea. We allowed undocumented Minnesotans to have driver's licenses until 2003. We're going back to what we used to have then. Mr. Speaker and members, there are so many things to say about the incredible contributions of the people who need this law. They do some of the hardest work here in our state. They work at those jobs tirelessly, and I think that's one of the reasons we have the support, for example, of some of the business leaders. They know that they need these workers. They are faithful, hard-working people, family people, who dedicate themselves every single day to long hours of some of the work that others don't want. And many of their children are advancing, and because of President Obama's opportunities and the DREAM Act that we passed here, those children are now, some of them, able to get higher education and going on to even higher levels of employment and work, and we can be very proud of them. Some of them are at the top of their class. They are people we should be very proud of, and their undocumented parents are very proud of them. There was a testimony that has happened in numerous communities, and I can't repeat all that, but I do want to just tell you one story that I think causes me to rise now and ask me to really reconsider whether or not we should be passing this bill without driver's license. One of the young women who spoke in the Senate was a Minnesota soldier. She grew up here. She was a citizen, but her parents weren't. And I don't have all the details of her story, but I remember that one of the Republican members on the committee, after he heard her story, he said, I came here and I was not going to vote for this bill, and now I am. And she talked about how her mother had been picked up for driving with I think she had a taillight out, something like that, was told by the police officers that they wanted to come to her house. They went. Eventually she was taken outside, and eventually she was taken away from her family. 4 children. The young soldier who was speaking to us talked about how, as one of the daughters in the family, this was very difficult to try to help her dad raise the other children, the mother being deported. And then, a few years later, guess what? The dad got stopped. And he got deported, to make this a shorter story. So, 4 American kids, born and raised here, undocumented parents, hard-working parents who lived here decades, deported. Basically made orphans, having to fend for themselves. And this young soldier said to the committee, this is really hard. My dad, when he left, he took your youngest brother. I haven't seen him. That time he was 8. He started out when he was much younger. She said, you know, but I love my country. And although I cannot understand why he did this to my parents, I love my country, and I want to pass this amendment. And I just want us to understand how deeply this is not only an important issue in terms of safe roads and insured drivers, it's also probably the human rights issue of the day. And we had that kind of testimony from the Auxiliary Archbishop of the Catholic Diocese here in Winona. He came to Representative McNamara's committee and gave that testimony. Representative McNamara, I know you heard it too. He said this is a human rights issue. So I speak as the Catholic Auxiliary Archdiocese bishop, I think is title. So members, we have all kinds of faith community people who ask us to think about the depth of this trouble we're doing to families. And I want to go back just to honor the question that was raised about law enforcement, because there is strong support from the law enforcement community here. And I would not in any way try to change that. I think it's so incredibly important, and it really lends credence to the fact that this is an issue. It's definitely a human rights issue. It's definitely an economic justice issue. Our Chamber of Commerce and all those organizations I've been read off to you, they're not doing this just out of the goodness of their heart, although I hope that's part of it. They're also doing it because these workers need to have the jobs that they need them to take the jobs that they are offering. They are such an important part of our economy. We had the consul here from Minnesota the other day, and he talked about the consulate, and he talked about how we have, I don't know, anywhere from 180 to, when I talked about